Dr. Teitelbaum is the director of the Practitioners Alliance Network. He is a lead author of groundbreaking research on treatment for chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, and he is also the developer of the clinically studied and validated SHINE protocol. He knows chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia as an insider because he suffered from these diseases when he was in medical school and actually had to drop out of school for a year to recover enough energy and stamina to continue with his studies. And since that happened to him, he has continued to be a perpetual learner over the last 40 years, dedicating his career to finding effective treatment for both of these diseases. Every time I listen to Dr. Teitelbaum, I learn something new, and I hope that you will join me in welcoming one of the most educated and one of the most easily understood experts in chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia that I've ever heard. So welcome, Dr. Teitelbaum. We're so glad you could join us today.
Cheryl, Lexi, great to be here with both of you. And welcome, everybody. Cheryl and Lexi are two of my co-conspirators in helping to make effective treatment available to everybody. You know, people often ask, what's a nice doctor like me doing in a field like this? And basically, I got into it like most of the doctors did. I had it. When I was in medical school, I came down with what I call the drop-dead flu, nasty viral infection, left me bedbound for a good bit, and I had to drop out of medical school. And since I was paying my own way and I couldn't work anymore, I actually was homeless and sleeping in parks with this illness. But it was funny. It was like the universe put a homeless medical school sign on my park bench. And health practitioners from all different backgrounds came by and taught me bits and pieces of what I needed to learn to get myself well. And sometimes if they had some pizza or something, I even ate. And I was able to get myself well, went back to medical school, did great. And I spent the last 40-some years with a simple goal, making effective treatment available for everybody. And it is possible. And we treat people day in and day out. This is a very, very treatable disease. The problem is that most physicians are, to put it bluntly, clueless about this illness. And that's okay. You don't, if you come to me for heart bypass surgery, it doesn't make me a bad doctor. You just don't want to do that. And if you go to most doctors for chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, same thing. They just have no idea. So we're going to talk today about how you can get your life back. And we're going to organize it for you. I know it gets confusing. There's so much information. Is it a toxic problem? Is it a sleep problem? Is it an infection? Is it, and I can go on with 100 different things. So we're going to put it all together for you today and give you the information you need to get started on the road back to wellness. So, okay, now, Cheryl, there it goes. So in terms of the symptoms, there are literally hundreds of different symptoms that can be going on. But the hallmark symptoms are if you have widespread pain or severe fatigue associated with inability to sleep. If you have those, that's the bottom line. You've got this process, most likely until proven otherwise. And that is the case even if you have other conditions like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or thyroid problems. When you have that severe inability to get a refreshing night's sleep associated with widespread pain and fatigue, you've got the condition. But you'll also see headaches. You'll see the brain fog. And many of you are as frightened about the brain fog as you are about, all the rest of the problems. And you'll find that it's difficulty with word finding or word substitution. So if you don't remember, if you can't get your wife's name out or your husband's name, that's not Alzheimer's. That's just a brain fog. And it goes away with treatment along with everything else. Your brain will come back. For those of you who are worried if you're having Alzheimer's disease is not when you keep forgetting where you left the keys. It's when you forget how to use the keys. So you don't have Alzheimer's, and your brain will come back once it's given the energy and help that it needs along with the rest of your body. Many of you will find that you also have sinus and gut symptoms, irritable bowel syndrome, sinusitis. That's from the candida. That tends to also go away with treatment as well. And a lot of you will find that you have severe sensitivities to everything, it seems. And there's a technique, an acupressure technique called N-A-E-T, and like Nancy, A-E-T. So you go to NAT.com, you can learn about it. That can get rid of the sensitivities as well, very simply. So let's take a look at what causes this illness. Basically, this illness is an energy crisis where the energy crisis causes you to blow a fuse in the brain, which controls sleep, hormonal systems, other problems, and it causes your immune system to go a bit haywire. So you'll see a host of different things triggering inflammation, and inflammation is kind of a tricky word here, but basically alterations in the immune system. So you have problems effectively fighting infections, you have problems with pain, you've got a host of different conditions going on. So a lot of things can trigger it. You can trigger fibromyalgia as many ways as you can blow a fuse or trip a circuit breaker in your home. You can see it from injuries, life stresses. It can be physical, emotional. You can see it from autoimmune diseases, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's are classic ones. There's a mild genetic predisposition. There are literally dozens of infections that can trigger what I had, which is post-infectious fibromyalgia. So many, many things that can trigger the energy crisis, and most often it is a combination of things, not one single event. Now, if you feel like you're alone, you're not. We're looking at 10 to 12 million Americans who have fibromyalgia-related processes. We have about 6 million that fit the classical definition, and about another 6 million that have an intermediate form of fibromyalgia. And as is the case with most immune illnesses, you see the same with lupus, you'll see the same with rheumatoid arthritis. Most immune illnesses affect predominantly women. So you'll see about 80% of people with this illness are female. People ask why that is. We're not sure, but one simple thing is that a woman's immune system is very different from a man's. If a woman gets pregnant, she has to carry that little guy or gal, through the 9 months, where a guy's immune system would kick it right out. So women, immunity and otherwise, have had to learn to be much more tolerant than men, and their immune systems are more vulnerable. Different illnesses affect men more. So many of you have gone to the doctor and you've had the experience that the first 8 doctors you go to, the doctor looks at you, basically giving you and your family member the impression that I don't know what's wrong with you, so you're crazy. And let me say very simply, that is abusive behavior and not acceptable. They used to do the same thing with lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. It used to be called hysterical paralysis. Nobody would accept being told that they're crazy because the doctor didn't know what multiple sclerosis is. And this is it's too late, in the game for this to be acceptable anymore. In 2016, if a doctor says, I don't know what's wrong with you, and implies to you and your family that you're crazy, then I have a simple recommendation. Stand up straight, walk over to the doctor, give him a big hug, look him in the eye, and say, thank you for letting me know up front what a total and complete idiot you are, and turn around and walk out the door. That behavior is not acceptable for doctors to do that. It's abusive. Now, if the doctor says, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with you, that's simply being honest. And we'll see if you can find somebody who can help you. That's fine. And then when you finally get the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and they'll come along and what they'll do is they'll give you Lyrica, Cymbalta, or Savella. And sometimes they'll try to give you NSAIDs like ibuprofen, which have been shown to be pretty useless in this disease. But mostly that's the few medications they'll use because they spend $210 million a year advertising those medications to the doctors and to the public. But although those medications can have mild benefits, they have a lot of side effects, and they really don't get to the root cause of the illness. So we're going to talk today about how to really use an overall comprehensive treatment to recover from this illness. And a good way to remember it, write this down, S-H-I-N-E, SHINE. If you use that structure, it's going to organize your whole treatment protocol and make it much easier for you to get better. So, again, write it down. The S is for sleep. We'll talk about how to get the 8 hours sleep that seem impossible to you right now. H is hormonal support. You need thyroid, adrenal, reproductive hormone, and other hormone support, even if the blood tests are normal. I will be infections. The most important one is Candida, but there are, like I said, literally dozens of viral, bacterial, parasitic, and other infections that can be involved in this disease. Nutritional support to optimize energy is a key with most illnesses, and then exercise as able. Now, many of you have heard about the PACE study, which was, in my humble opinion, absurd. And the problem is that when the doctors talk about exercise using that, and many of you talk about the cognitive behavioral therapy, which is also okay, except the way it's used in fibromyalgia, they use it almost to imply that, well, this is not a real disease. You just need to exercise and get counseling. And same thing applies. When somebody lays that kind of a stupid trip on you, just tune them out. Go to somebody else. But any disease, whether you have cancer, whether you've had a stroke, whether you have heart disease, it's important to stay conditioned as much as you can, even if that's only a few minutes walk a day. Many of you may be bedridden, and getting around the house is a major thing, but do what you can. Even if you're doing it in a warm water swimming pool, so you have the buoyancy that'll make it easier, because maintaining conditioning is important. The problem is if you do too much, you get wiped out and feel like you got hit by a truck the next day. So don't let the idiots who are using exercise studies to try to make believe this is a crazy person's disease, tune them out. They're idiots. But don't tune out the need to stay conditioned as one piece of getting well from any illness. Now, let's take a look at the SHINE protocol in the research studies. We've done 2 studies on the SHINE protocol. One of them was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study put together with the help of some of the major researchers. So it's a really good, solid study. And we did the SHINE protocol. Half the people were randomized to get the SHINE protocol, and the other half received placebo, and nobody knew who got what. And there are 4 outcome measures we used to see how people did. And one was just a visual analog scale, on a scale of basically 1 to 10 kind of a thing, with 1 being dead, 10 being healthy. So we asked people how they're doing on 5 major areas, including the fatigue, the pain, the sleep, the cognitive function, overall well-being. So for the overall well-being, what we found is in the placebo group, there is a very minimal improvement. So you'll see just that what you'll see with most placebo studies. But in the active treatment group, quality of life at 3 months increased by an average of 75% at 3 months. So think about what it would feel like to have 75% more quality of life. And at 2 years, that continued to grow. Because many of you have the experience that you get one piece of the chain tightened up, and then you start pulling on it, now another weak link breaks. So we did a 2-year follow-up in the study, and it showed that at 2 years, most people continue to get better and better and better with an average 90% increase in quality of life. Think about that, 90%. And most people were able to wean off of most of the treatments by the 2-year mark. So there are a lot of treatments that are needed, but these are like crutches that help you get better. And then as you recover, you throw away the crutches and you get on with your life. And there's another young lady that I treated yesterday, for example, who was rated her life at a 2 when we started treatment. Now she's just finished getting her degree, and she's starting a new job. She moved up to New York City, and she's off and running and back with her life. And that's the normal kind of response that people will see with the SHINE protocol. You get your life back. So let's take a look at SHINE. Just for sleep. Sleep is really, really important. You're not going to get well if you don't get your sleep. Now, as a nation, we're sleep deprived. It's funny, when I often when I'm lecturing, I ask people in the audience, okay, guess what the average hours of sleep that people used to get 135 years ago would be. And, people are thinking, well, 6, 7. The average night's sleep until 130 years ago, which is when they developed light bulbs, was 9 hours a night. And now we're down to 6 3/4 hours per night. So as a society, we're sleep deprived. And with fibromyalgia, that's much worse because the sleep center is not working because of the energy crisis. So you have trouble falling and staying asleep. And when you don't sleep, you're going to see increased pain because sleep is when your body's repair crews are out. Just like the highway crews are out in the middle of the night when there's no traffic, our body makes growth hormone and sends out the repair teams to heal up muscles and take care of things that would normally cause pain while we're sleeping. And if you're not getting the deep sleep, your repair crews don't have a chance to go out and do the job, and people will get pain just from sleep deprivation. You'll see also, another common symptom when we talk about symptoms of fibromyalgia. When I ask people, how's your libido? 73%, the answer is, what libido? So for those of you who are listening with your spouses, it's not that you haven't shaved or showered lately. It's just that the illness itself causes loss of libido. That takes a little longer to come back, usually on the order of 6 to 12 months. Also, we'll see an average 32.5-pound weight gain with this disease, average. Some people are put on 50 to 60. That's not because you're eating wrong or the rest. It's because your metabolism has shifted to not make energy, and people pack on the weight. And you can't lose the weight until you restore metabolism, which is part of what Shine does. So for sleep, I like to begin with the herbals because the herbals are much less likely to have side effects. And you'll find that there's one herbal mix that combines valerian, hops, L-theanine, lemon balm, wild lettuce, and passion flower, which is very good. There's another excellent one. That's a combination of mandarin, lemon balm, and other essential oils. And all of these herbs can be used together. You can use, if you're going to use melatonin, you want to use one that sustains release. And I like one that's a combination, immediate and sustained release. Works much better than the standard ones. Magnesium at bedtime. And I like to use a special form of echinacea. Most echinaceas won't do it, but there's one special form of echinacea that really is good for anxiety, but I personally take it myself. I don't have anxiety at all, but I use that because it helps my sleep. So the herbals can be very, very helpful, give you a really good start at getting a solid night's sleep. Now, it's okay to also go ahead, you want to use the standard, basically common sense things. You want to keep your bedroom cool. You don't want to watch exciting TV shows before bedtime. It's just like when you put your child to bed. You have the quiet time shows, and they take a half hour or so. You have something, and they get their routine, and the routine teaches them now it's time to go to sleep. And adults are just big children when it comes to that. For those of you who don't have children because of infertility issues, which are common in fibromyalgia, those are very, I don't want to say easy, but readily reversed. I warn people who say, well, I can't get pregnant, tried for 15 years, that they may get pregnant on the protocol. And there's a lot of people that's saying these are Dr. Teitelbaum's babies, and that's not because of that, but that's because they were able to get pregnant once they did the protocol. And for those of you with infertility, you can email me and I'll send you an information sheet on natural and other approaches to reverse infertility also. And you can either email You're a Farmer directly, or you can email me. My email address, and please don't share it, is endfatigue@aol.com. And you can ask for the information that we'll talk about today, and including the infertility information sheet. Now, also, I will note for sleep before we move on that it is okay to use the medications also in combination with the herbals. And you'll find that a low dose of several medications, and you don't want to use most sleeping pills. They make the problem worse. But there's other medications like Neurontin, Trazodone, Zanaflex, things like that, that at very low dose can also be helpful for sleep. And I will combine whatever is needed to get the person the solid 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night they need without hangover. So that's the S, the sleep part. And let's take a look at hormones. Hormones are basically our body's communication system. And there are glands throughout the body that make different hormones. And they basically facilitate communication. It is very common, almost routine, to see adrenal and thyroid dysfunction as well as ovarian and testicular dysfunction in people with fibromyalgia or CFS. And that's because when you talk about blowing a fuse or tripping a circuit breaker in this disease, because of the low energy. When energy goes below a certain threshold, you trip the circuit breaker. And that circuit breaker is called the hypothalamus, which controls sleep, which is why you're not sleeping, controls hormones, all the hormone systems pretty much. It controls temperature regulation, so 98.6 is a fever. And it controls blood pressure and pulse. So people tend to have low blood pressure and what's called orthostatic intolerance. So the hormones are down throughout the body. Now, most of the tests are geared so that you have to be in the lowest 2.5% of the population before the test is abnormal. To put that in simple dollars and cents, if you had an income of $8,100 a year, you'd be in the 3rd percent of the population. Medically, the test would say that you're totally normal and fine. Poverty is anything under $16,000. So that the tests are normal are meaningless. People will have hormonal deficiencies. They may be in the 5th percentile of the population. How many of you have gone to the doctor? You're a poster child for thyroid problem. The doctor says the test is normal. You look at it, you're right on the low end. Normal is 0.9 to 1.8, and you're 0.9. You're in the lowest 3% of the population, and they're saying you're fine. And you feel like screaming. Well, that's because you have low thyroid, even if the tests are normal. And the TSH is an utterly useless test in this disease in most cases. So how do you tell if you need adrenal support? Well, I'm going to give you a very high-tech approach. The doctor will want to check a test called the cortisol level. You have to be, for that test, you have to be in the lowest 1 out of 100,000 people for it to be abnormal. It has to be so low that it literally can kill you. Most people run a cortisol of 18 in the morning. It has to be under 6. So if you come in at 5.9, they'll call it a medical emergency. They may hospitalize you. They'll put a med alert bracelet on you. But if you come in at 6.1, they'll say you're totally fine, even if you're bedridden on the adrenal test. And if you do 2 tests on the same tube of blood on the same person, the results are usually 4 to 8 points apart. So 5.9 is life-threatening and 6.1 is no problem at all. I mean, to me, that sounds insane, and it is. So here's how you tell if you have low adrenal. You ask the people around you, does it seem like I have periods where I get these feed me now or I will kill you moments, that I get irritable and my claws come out, and then if I eat, I feel better? And ask yourself that question. And if all of you are nodding your head, yes, those are symptoms of low blood sugar. That reflects underactive adrenal in most cases. Now, those symptoms can also come from the low blood pressure or orthostatic intolerance. So the way you tell is you eat something. If you feel better after you eat, it's low adrenal. You'll also see frequent infections. You'll have this thing that I get every infection that comes by and it takes forever to go away. That's low adrenal. You treat your adrenal, that stops. People say, oh my God, I went through the whole winter. Everybody was sick and I wasn't. The low blood pressure, difficulty or crashing with stress, and salt cravings. If you try to restrict salt because of what you hear in the media, when you have low adrenal and fibromyalgia, you will crash and burn. Your body needs a lot of salt, and I recommend get a good quality sea salt. But really, any salt that's handy, just eat salt. You need it. So low thyroid is also very easy to tell. The tests can be normal, but if you're tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant, infertility, constipation, if you have any 2 of those symptoms, you deserve a trial of thyroid hormone to see if it helps. And put very simply, virtually everybody with fibromyalgia deserves a trial of thyroid hormone. Now, we could give a 4-hour talk just on all the different ways needed to treat thyroid and adjust it to the individual. But in most cases, I'll begin with the Armour thyroid, and then I will try T3 hormone or Synthroid. Everybody's different, and the way that you tell is by how it feels. Now, another important tip with thyroid is when you adjust the dose of the thyroid, most doctors will want to do a TSH test, which relies on that hypothalamic circuit we talked about working. It doesn't work. That test is an utter useless piece of garbage. For those of you who can't tell, I'm very subtle in the things I say. I mean, it blows my mind. The research is very clear. That test is not reliable in fibromyalgia. What you do is you adjust the thyroid dose to the level that feels the best to you. If you're tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant, maybe too low. If you feel like you had too much coffee, it's too high. When you find the level that feels best, you check one test, a free T4, and make sure that it's within the normal range for safety. Otherwise, if you have a normal range for shoes, a normal range would be size 5 to 13. And if you lost your shoes and the doctor said, well, I'm going to put you in a size 6, you're in the normal range now. And he happens to be the 280-pound, 6'8" Texan, and he's putting in a size 6 shoe and saying, well, you're in the normal range. And I feel like taking that shoe and hitting him over the head and giving him the size 6 shoe and saying, you wear this for 3 months and then we'll talk. It's an absurdity. You adjust, just like you would try on different shoes till you found what felt best. You do the same with thyroid. You find what feels best. And then you make sure it's somewhere in the normal range, between, so you're the 10th and the 90th percentile for safety. It's really straightforward. Now, for thyroid support, you can begin naturally. A lot of people are getting low thyroid because we're seeing a return of an epidemic of iodine deficiency in the United States. It used to be so common that the government mandated that they put iodine back in the salt. But most of it we're getting from things like wheat and things like that. But what happened is that the bakers started putting bromide instead of iodine, and the bromide blocks iodine function. So it became a double whammy. A nice simple thing to do, get a iodine product. I like one that has the 3 iodine forms combined. I recommend taking 6¼ milligram capsule each day for 3 months. Just take it for 1 bottle or 2, and then see how you feel. And then you may find that you choose to continue it. Or at that point, in many people, you will have filled the tank, and then you just need to take it maybe once a week. But the iodine can be very helpful and also seems to be associated with a lower risk of breast cancer. So iodine has a lot of different benefits in the body. And then I'll use a prescription bioidentical desiccated thyroid, the Armour thyroid, to begin with. Now, so that's the thyroid. Tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant. Adjust the thyroid till you get the maximum benefit for that without being shaky or hyper or racing heart. Now, that's a whole other, racing heart's a whole other story, and we'll have to talk, maybe save that for another talk. Now, adrenal. You get feed me now or I'll kill you moments, irritable when hungry, crash with stress. You take the adrenal support. You can get very nice support using a mix of natural components such as vitamin C and vitamin B5 at high dose. Licorice will help. There's other herbals can be helpful. And then the adrenal glandular extract can be very helpful as well, along with DHEA and pregnenolone, which are the hormones that are made by the adrenal and also the raw material the adrenal uses to make the adrenal hormones. We'll find that pregnenolone, it's interesting, pregnenolone levels are routinely very low in fibromyalgia. And part of the reason is that it's made in our body's energy furnaces called the mitochondria. So when those energy furnaces go offline, which is routine in this disease, you don't make the pregnenolone, and then you don't have the basic raw materials. It's like the bricks for building a wall or a building. The pregnenolone makes all of the other adrenal and ovarian testicular hormones, and all of a sudden you don't have the raw materials. So the adrenal support can be very, very helpful in this disease, and you can find most of this in a single capsule. And you'll find that within a week, you'll feel a lot better. The estrogen, testosterone, again, use of bioidentical hormones, and there's other hormones that can be helpful as well, but those are the key ones. The infections, I call this the Infection of the Month Club, because every month it seems they come up with another infection that's the cause of fibromyalgia. So we may have figured out by now that it's not a single infection. It's that the immune system is down, and because of that, we pick up many different hitchhikers. These are called opportunistic infections, which is another way of saying infections that a normal, healthy immune system would get rid of quickly. The biggest problems will be the yeast or candida infections. There's no test for it that's worth a nickel that I would spend a nickel for. They're just useless. The way you tell that you have candida is if you have nasal congestion, postnasal drip, clearing your throat a lot, that kind of thing. or if you have irritable bowel syndrome, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation. In most cases, these are caused by the fungal infection or candida and will go away with proper treatment. We'll find that there's a host of bacterial infections that are going on. Different mycobacteria have been involved, Lyme, spirochetes. There's literally numerous infections. And some people will find that when they took an antibiotic, whether it's amoxicillin or doxycycline or whatever, and they say, my fibromyalgia got better for the week I was on the antibiotic. And I say, how much better? They say, a lot better. I said, and then how long did it last? Well, a couple of days, after I stopped it came back. Well, in those cases, people need that antibiotic for 6 to 12 months while being treated so they don't get fungal overgrowth at the same time. Viral infections. There's some exciting research coming out on use of different antiviral approaches, both natural and prescription, to help knock out herpes simplex virus 1. That's one that causes cold sores. You'll see Epstein-Barr has been implicated as, well, probably too much, but it's one of a number of viruses that are affected HHV6. And we're using different antivirals in a small subset of the population and seeing improvement after 4 to 6 months. Parasites, again, common. In our first study, we saw about 1 in 6 people had parasites with proper testing, and those need to be treated. So when you treat the infections, and that really has to be tailored individual to individual, you can see significant improvement, but the candida is the biggie. So for natural candida yeast treatment, begin with a good probiotic. Use ones that have the proper strains that won't be killed by the stomach acid. So there are some very good ones out there that can be, have, say, 20 billion bacteria or so of the probiotic. There's many good ones. A low-sugar diet is critical. Yeast grow by fermenting sugar. When you take one of those 48-ounce Big Burp sodas, that's 36 spoons of sugar you're pouring into it. Now there's a fermentation tank in your gut. And the candida are partying and reproducing like crazy. So use stevia, use the natural sweeteners. Antifungals, again, there's a host of natural ones. I'll use the diflucan given for at least 6 weeks. And again, look for the other infections, treat them, even if it's based on symptoms. There are certain foods that can have antifungal effects. Coconut oil, for example, is one very good one. The turmeric, there's a host of different things that can have antifungal. Garlic has anti-infectious properties in general. So when we've looked at sleep and optimizing to get to 8 hours. We've looked at the hormones, optimizing those, not based on the blood test, but based on symptoms. We've looked at the infections. Now let's take a look at nutrition, because nutrition is important for producing energy. And they're widespread. There's no, people say, well, what nutrients am I deficient in or do I need? And in fibromyalgia, the answer is basically all of them. Because of the gut problems and increased need for nutrients, because of the energy crisis, people are deficient across the board in a host of things. But some of the very important ones would be the A and B complex, especially for energy. Vitamin C, D is critical. You'll find with chronic pain, people will be vitamin D deficient and aggravates that. The folate, magnesium, arguably the single most important nutritional deficiency in this country is a magnesium deficiency. Low magnesium equals chronic pain because your muscles will be tight. Glutathione deficiency, that's the main antioxidant that the human body makes, is a hallmark of this disease also. Low iron, selenium, a host of nutritional deficiencies. For those of you who are needing chronic narcotics, they will routinely make you B vitamin deficient. You may find at the corner of your mouth to get some cracking. That's a sign of B vitamin deficiency or candida. And the low B vitamins will also cause low testosterone, will aggravate the pain. So you need to make sure that those are optimized as well to help keep your pain free. Now, there are many things in the diet. The overall thing for a fibromyalgia diet plan, number 1, high salt. Number 2, cut down sugar. 3, increase water. Those are the 3 biggies. But in addition, magnesium-rich foods, green leafy vegetables, nuts, things along those lines. So the vegetables, a modest amount of fruits, things that are high in omega-3s like salmon, tuna, herring, sardines. Probiotic foods this is an underappreciated, really important thing. So fermented foods, things like the sauerkraut, the kefir, the kombucha, the kimchi, these things I think can have a dramatic benefit in helping restore the gut balance in the human body. They're just cheap, so nobody really talks about them too much. I shouldn't say nobody, but you won't see it in advertising in places where you need advertising to get in. So the magnesium, antioxidant vegetables, omega-3s, basically, how do you know if the food you're eating is good for you? By how it feels. So, you know, the exception of sugar, which is like heroin, you'll feel better for a couple hours and then you feel like lousy. So the overall, I suspect the reason we have such an abundance of different foods on the planet, you know, the universe, God, whatever name you want to use, has created this cornucopia of amazing variety. And that's, I suspect, because everybody needs different things, and even each person at different times of their lives may need different things. So the way you tell is, how does it work for you? How does it feel? If what you're eating is feeling better, then that's good. If it's making you feel worse, your body doesn't want that. And I don't care what any experts are saying. There's no one diet fits all. We will find that a good number of people will feel better when they avoid gluten in milk. Caffeine is okay in moderation, a cup of coffee or two a day, but in excess is a problem. But for people, that 15% of people that have kind of a stubborn fibromyalgia, that's when I'll put them on the gluten and sugar and the gluten and milk-free diet for 6 to 8 weeks to see if that helps. But mostly, just eat a high-protein diet that has healthy food in it with a lot of salt. There are you know, because we need so many different nutrients, and people get tired of being what I call part of the handful club, where you're taking handfuls of pills all day. So I recommend using vitamin powders and you'll have some that will go ahead and have 50 key nutrients, where one drink literally replaces over 35 tablets. And if you think I'm kidding, if you can get what's in that one drink in less than 35 pills, I'll give you $50. I mean, just nobody's been able to do it. It takes most people 60 pills to get what's in that one drink a day. I start everybody on this, fibromyalgia or not. It makes a big difference, and it's just one simple, you can do half a scoop a day or 1 scoop a day, and it's low cost, it's easy for people. And then other nutrients that are important, coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams a day. We did 2 studies on ribose that showed that it increased energy an average of 61% in people with fibromyalgia. Acetylcarnitine, and if your ferritin level is under 60, that's the iron test, even if that normal is anything over 12, which has been described by the scientists in the field as insanity. If it's under 60, you need iron, taken at a different time of day than any thyroid. So increase your water and salt intake, decrease sugar, high protein, low carb diet for most people, but everybody's different. And again, get your omega-3 support, decreases inflammation. It just helps mood, many things. And for those of you with dry mouth and dry eyes, which is really, really common, there's a sea buckthorn oil that's excellent. Brand matters. That can really help with dry eyes and dry mouth after about 2 months of use. It helps increase the moisture throughout your body. Wonderful, wonderful herbal, not herbal, but omega-7 with the sea buckthorn oil. So these are the basics for nutritional support. Now, exercise, you don't have to do fancy programs. Start a walking program. Get a pedometer or a Fitbit or whatever, and see how many steps you can do where you feel good, tired after, and better the next day. If you feel like you got hit by a truck the next day, that's too much. You're going beyond your body's ability to make the energy to condition. And many of you have the thing that you've got a gung-ho, I'm going to exercise, and then you crash and burn because you overdid it, and then you're afraid to do anything. So start slowly. Start with a minute walk a day. Increase it by 50 steps a day until you see the level your body's comfortable with. And then keep it there for about 8 to 12 weeks. After 12 weeks on the SHINE protocol, your energy production is going to start to skyrocket, and you're going to be able to condition. And then you'll find that you can start to increase your steps. Increase it by 50 steps every day or 2. And then once you get up to an hour of walking, then you can start to increase the intensity of the exercise. There's no upper limit, but listen to your body. So the exercise, all illnesses have a psychodynamic. We'll see with multiple sclerosis, for example, it tends to be repressed rage. That's why people with MS tend to be so nice. Heart attack is hostility and repressed hostility and rage. Increased threefold risk of heart attacks in people who have that. But you wouldn't dream if somebody goes into an emergency room with crushing chest pain. Can you imagine if they said, oh, well, you just have to let go of your hostility and stuff, you know. They get clobbered over the head with a 2x4. It's like, no, you put them on an intensive care unit. Your treatment needs to be done. You know, cancers, ovarian cancer tends to be associated with a hopeless personality. You know, each different disease has its own psychodynamic, and fibromyalgia is no exception to that. So here's the psychodynamic for fibromyalgia. Basically, we're people pleasers. We have trouble saying no because we want to avoid losing approval and avoid conflict. And we're the nicest people in the world. When you see when you have the chairwoman of the committee on 1,000 ways to waste everybody's time comes walking down the street, and you see everybody ducking to the side alleys and running for cover, except the person with fibromyalgia. She's there like a deer in the headlights, you know, frozen. And the woman comes up and says, well, we really need you to be, you know, chairwoman of the committee of make everybody miserable, or, you know, and you'll see a lot of these people are what I call energy vampires, and you'll know them. They're the ones that, you know, if you have any energy, it's like a neon sign over your head goes on, and it says emotional toxic waste dump open and filling station. They come in, and first they put the hooks in. They go, oh, I couldn't do it without you. If not for you, I'd be dead, you know, and they put the hooks in first. Then they suck you dry, and then they dump all of their emotional caca on you. And then they say, I feel so much better now, and they leave, and you feel like, oh, my God. And there's a simple word. First of all, the simple way to tell if something is authentic to you and you should do it is how it feels. If it feels good, that's your psyche's way of saying, I like that. And if it feels bad, I don't care if your brain is saying, well, somebody's got to do it. If I don't do it, who will? Tune your brain out. If you need a couple shots of tequila to do it, go for it. But turn your brain off a bit. Check how things feel. If something feels good, then it's okay to say yes, with the exception, see how it's working out for you. Like I said before, you shoot up some heroin, you're going to feel good for a couple hours, but overall you're going to feel lousy. But see how things feel and how they work for you, those two things. And if something feels bad, doctor's orders. I'm giving you the excuse. So you can say, well, the doctor said I have to say no. He said he would wring my neck if I said yes to one more thing. So when that, you know, energy vampire comes up and they start pouring their emotional toxic waste on you, when you notice something feels bad, there's a simple one-word solution to the psychodynamic problem in this disease. It's a magic word, and that word is no. And first they'll be taken aback because they're not used to you saying no. And no is a very versatile word. You know, it can be done gracefully. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but the doctor said I can't, so no. And then if they say, but really, are you telling me that I shouldn't listen to my doctor and come back? Oh, you know, and then they'll go away. Or it can be no, very versatile. And there's a great T-shirt that said, what part of no didn't you understand? No is a complete sentence. You don't have to say anything else with it. So as part of getting well, if you create more energy so you can do a life you hate, you've done nothing. If you can do it so that the energy vampires come and suck you dry, you've done nothing. If you do it so you get a life you love, then my being here and your being here is really worthwhile. So let's check in with how things feel. Now, again, we talked about exercise, but let's look at pain. Pain is not the enemy. It's not like an outside infection or something like that. Pain is more like the oil light on your body's dashboard saying that something needs attention. So can you imagine if the oil light went on and you went to the doctor and said, this oil light is flashing and it's annoying me. And they said, well, I know, we'll take care of that. We'll put a Band-Aid over it. How does that work out for you? You know, you cover it up, and then your motor burns out. And then you go back to the doctor and say, the flashing light is still bothering me. So they smash it with a hammer. That's a medical approach to pain. Pain is simply the warning light on your body's dashboard saying something needs attention. Different pains are calling for different things. And If the oil light goes off, instead of smashing it with a hammer or covering it with a Band-Aid, if you just put oil in the car, what happens to the oil light? It goes out. When you give your body what it needs, the pain goes away. And we've seen this in our studies. So you need to know, the problem is it's not something that says oil, over the pain or it says that overheating. So we don't know what that light is saying until you check. So we can go ahead, and there's different tools we have. There's a free app called Cures A to Z. So C-U-R-E-S, capital A-Z. Look up anything from acne to fibromyalgia to neuropathy to zoster. And it'll talk about how to go ahead and effectively use natural treatments, the best of natural prescription treatments to help recover. So pain is not hard to get rid of. Fibromyalgia is basically an energy crisis. Your muscles get locked in a shortened position. You give shine, and at 3 months, pain dropped by 50% and continues to drop. Most people no longer have enough pain to consider themselves as having fibromyalgia because you've given the body what it needs. Different kind of pain will need different things. Now, natural pain relief can be even more effective than the medications. But instead of getting side effects, you get side benefits. Curcumin, but you need a special one that's highly absorbed. Very powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. When combined with boswellia, turmeric essential oils, frankincense oil, you're going to see remarkable relief of pain. It's amazing. I've seen people combine the curcumin boswellia mixes, but again, it has to be the special ones because if it's not highly absorbed, and most are not, it won't work. People with morphine, but the pain didn't help. That the natural pain relief gave them good relief. It's remarkable stuff. You want to give it 6 weeks to see the full effect. But again, you need to add that a turmeric essential oil needs to be added in for the curcumin to work. So natural pain relief can be very, very effective. And we'll start with the natural things. I'll start with a mix of both, the natural and prescriptions. But the natural things, instead of the side effects, like ibuprofen-related medications, Motrin, Naproxen, arthritis medications, are associated with 30,000 to 50,000 excess deaths a year in the United States that they cause, basically. Narcotic overdoses from prescribed 15,000 to 16,500 overdoses, about 15,000 a year. And you get all these side effects from the medications, sedation, weight gain, What are the side effects of curcumin? Much lower cancer risk, lower risk of Alzheimer's, improved mood, is more effective for depression than Prozac. So you get side benefits. Boswellia helps asthma, helps colitis, helps overall inflammation. And these are remarkable herbs. They're not expensive, and they're very well tolerated. So when you're looking at fibromyalgia, you treat shine to treat the energy crisis. There are some simple tools that will make it much easier. If you want, you can email me, and I'll send you some of the tools and information. The email address is endfatigue, ENDFATIGUE.com. I'm sorry, endfatigue@AOL.com. I'm one of the last 6 people who have an AOL account as part of Creative Anachronism. But please don't give that out. That's my personal email. But since you've come today, I'm going to share that with you. And you can email me, and I'll send you information on how to simplify getting the help you need. And it's just, when you treat with a shine, at 3 months, people are starting to feel better, and then at 2 years, they're getting much better. And you can get your life back. This illness is not a problem of not having effective treatment. This illness is a problem because doctors have no clue how to treat it. So the fibromyalgia is a comprehensive protocol that treats the entire system. The SHINE protocol has been shown in double-blind research to be very effective. But you want to work with a healthcare system who knows what they're doing. If for pain, muscle pain, somebody does myofascial release. Get somebody who's done it for many years. Acupuncture, minimally effective. It's not strong enough in this disease. Frequency-specific microcurrent, more effective. That's just one. Herbals and nutrition. For allergies, the NAET.com. For emotional traumas, emotional freedom technique. There's so many things that can be really helpful. I also do treat people often by phone consultation from all over the world. And literally all over the world regularly. So for those of you that are able, that are interested, I'm also available for those who would like an appointment to do, and my new patient appointments are about 3 to 4 hours. They're very thorough, very comprehensive. And there's Holistic Doctors, abihm.org. There's naturopathic.org. These are doctors who have a much better idea. Like I said at the beginning of the talk, you don't come to me for heart bypass surgery, and you don't go to most standard doctors for fibromyalgia care. But the holistic doctors, the naturopaths, are much more likely to be able to help you. It's a little more hit and miss, but at least you're going to be in the right ballpark. So to recap the nutritional support, the Ribose Energy Revitalization System Vitamin Powder, CoQ10, and for 4 months, the acetylcarnitine. For pain and inflammation, you want to balance it with the omega-3s and the curcumin turmeric essential oils with the boswellia and frankincense oil. If you have dry eyes and dry mouth, I would consider an omega-7 if that's a significant problem for you. For sleep, there's a host of herbals. There are herbal mixes, essential oil mixes, magnesium, melatonin, 5-HTP, and that special echinacea extract. It's not marketed for sleep. It's marketed for anxiety, but it's really good for sleep too. And all of these can be taken together and along with the sleep medications to get your solid 8-hour sleep a night. If you get irritable when hungry, feed me now or I'll kill you. Get adrenal support. There's nice adrenal mixes that have all of these. Basically, most of these are combined. For thyroid, get some iodine or iodine L-tyrosine. Begin with those, and then use the bioidentical hormones if needed. And for mood, ashwagandha, rhodiola. Rhodiola really increases stamina. Very, very nice herb. And curcumin, again, more effective for depression than the antidepressants. Now, let me give a quick thing on depression. Most people with this disease are not depressed, but like any chronic disease, it's not uncommon. If somebody has cancer, they're often not going to be the happiest camper in the world. So the herbals, and how do you tell if you're depressed? I'll give you a simple question. 2 questions will tell you if you're depressed. 1, do you feel depressed? That's one question. Do you think you're depressed? Is as reliable as any of the Beck depression inventories and the others. But another question is, do you have many interests? If you have no interests, because you just say, no, I'm really not interested in anything, that you're probably depressed. But if you say, I have a lot of interests, but I'm frustrated, I have no energy to do them, you're not depressed. It's that simple. So a couple tools. My book, The Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution, is a very nice, simple, easy read. It's written in like Cosmo grammar style. It's easy to read, easy to understand, but it'll give you the information you need. For those who want a more scientific-based book with all the study references and the rest, From Fatigue to Fantastic has been the #1 best-selling book of all time on fibromyalgia. The Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution, I would start with that. And those who want more detail then go to From Fatigue to Fantastic. There's a free energy analysis program that can assess your symptoms and tell you exactly how to make a signed protocol to optimize energy production. We have a free email newsletter that comes out whenever I feel like it. We have Q&A on the website. We have a health practitioner finder list, a lot more at the endfatigue.com. So there's a lot of information there that can help you to reclaim your health. And again, my goal is to make effective treatment available for everybody for this complex illness. Not everybody can afford to see their doctor. Not everybody can afford to see me. And I'm a good value, but I'm not low cost. So everybody's different. Our goal is to make it effective, available for everyone. And the different tools we have will do that. So even if you can't afford more than a cup of coffee a day, there are ways you can get a long way to getting better. And it's time for you to get your life back now. You really can. Like I said, I've been there, done that. I know where you are. I've been there myself. And if you looked at my schedule, I just got back from Berlin, and I just got back 2 weeks before that from lecturing to 650 doctors in Brazil. I'll be lecturing in Vegas next week. I mean, if you look at my schedule, it would make your head spin, because I'm out there teaching to get the information out to practitioners and to people to get well. And it's time for you to get your life back now. You can. So I want to thank everybody for coming. And there is now safe and effective treatment for CFS and fibromyalgia. And it's time for everybody to shine to your full potential. So happy holidays, everybody, and thank you all for coming.
Wow, Dr. Teitelbaum, that was some truly life-changing information. I am still trying to digest all of that as well, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. We have a pretty broad range of questions that we're going to get into in just a moment, but I first wanted to make a couple announcements. We've had a lot of people asking if the presentation has been recorded. Yes, it has been recorded, and it will be uploaded onto the Terry Talks Nutrition YouTube page within about probably the next day or two, so you will have a chance to listen to the webinar in its entirety again or share it with a friend or a loved one who you think might be interested. And we've also received a lot of questions regarding supplements and which brands to use. Now, in order to keep these presentations as educational and informational as possible, we do not mention specific brand names. However, I highly encourage all of the listeners today to go to Dr. Teitelbaum's website, www.endfatigue.com. He has a supplement store there that has, you know, omega-3s, omega-7s, curcumins, the special echinacea for sleep, iodine, the sleep formulas. So if you have questions regarding specific brand names, I highly encourage you to go to his store, since they are supplements that have already been screened by Dr. Teitelbaum and things he has had success using in practice. So now, with those getting out of the way, we're going to jump right into questions here. We've had several listeners want to find out, again, how do they find a doctor that is willing to work with them if they have fibromyalgia?
So a couple things. Again, like I said, we do consultations with people all over the world. For those that are interested, you can email my appointment manager, Sarah. The email is appointments, with an S at the end, at endfatigue.com. Or you can email me and I'll forward it to her. My email address is fatigue, F-A-T-I-G-U-E, at AOL.com. On the Endfatigue website, you'll see a button for fibromyalgia, and then you'll see a drop-down box that says Find a Practitioner. It'll have practitioners that have done my 8-hour training. Also, if you go to a website, www.abihm.org, not .com, but .org, you'll find over 2,000 holistic physicians that are board certified in holistic medicine. They're not all going to know how to treat fibromyalgia, but they're much, much, much more likely to at least have a good start at it. Naturopathic doctors in the states that license them to practice, if you go to our website, naturopathic.org, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest, where they really have the MDs, naturopaths appropriately licensed in the same way as MDs and DOs and chiropractors, which is how it should be all over the country. You'll find that there's thousands of naturopaths that are really well trained. So these would be good places to begin. So like I say, I'm available for consultation. You'll have a list of people that I have done at least the 8-hour training course that I've done. Then you have these 2 websites that will give you another 4,000 doctors. And so you have really good places to begin with it.
All right, great, thank you. We also had a lot of questions regarding things like Lyme disease and Epstein-Barr virus or the Candida overgrowth, and how they play a role with the development of fibromyalgia, and do they each kind of have their own, different symptoms, or is it all kind of grouped together?
Well, that's a problem, is that the symptoms tend to overlap a lot. And that's why the symptoms, tired, achy, brain fog, can't sleep, the widespread pain. I can give a list of symptoms that you'll have 12 million people say, I've got that. And then I can say, and that's caused by, and I can say anything, it's caused by space aliens beaming, Gumbies into your head. And people say, but it must be that because these are my symptoms. So you're going to see a lot of different things, if you have that, it's Epstein-Barr, if you have that, it's Lyme, if you have that, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this common mix of symptoms can be caused by literally over 100 different things that can cause an energy crisis and cause you to blow a fuse. So it really takes a detailed evaluation to see what the underlying things are. Many of them can be done straightforward. But for those infections, the Candida, again, nasal congestion, postnasal drip, irritable bowel syndrome. But the bottom line, I treat pretty much everybody for Candida because they have fibromyalgia. The viral infections, did you have the onset of the drop-dead flu kind of thing? Do you have the chronic flu-like symptoms? There are certain tests, 90% of the population is positive for Epstein-Barr antibodies, so that doesn't mean anything, but there are certain subtype antibodies and certain levels of elevation. Same with the HHV6, CMV, HSV1. So I'll look for how high the titers are. If the titer is positive, this means you had it, but most of the population has had it, doesn't mean anything. It's how high they are combined with symptoms. For the antibiotic-sensitive infections, chronic low-grade fever, meaning anything over 98.6, scalp sores. It's funny, people get these scabs on their thing. This antibiotic Zithromax seems to help them. If you have chronic lung congestion, if you have an elevated white count, which most often it's a blood cell count that looks for infections, which tends to be low in fibro, if that's on the high side. If you have a history of being allergic to 3 or 4 different unrelated antibiotics. Think about it. If you're allergic to 4 antibiotics and nothing else, those antibiotics are chemically unrelated, what are the odds of that? It's not an allergy. You're killing off something and getting what's called a Herxheimer reaction, that you're being called allergic. It's not. It means that it's killing something that's getting you. So we'll go very slowly at very low doses and work up with the antibiotics in those cases. People who, as I mentioned, had a history where they took an antibiotic and they felt much better from the fibro, even transiently. I'm going to go with the antibiotic then. So the things like Lyme, Epstein-Barr, there are really no good tests that are meaningful, Candida. And there are a lot of tests, but most of them are, what's the medical term I'm looking for, Lexi? Oh, caca. I mean, this, there's tests for Lyme disease that I can pick 5 people walking the street. I'll guarantee you 4 of them would be positive, even if they feel great from that lab. And other things too. So some things you just have to treat clinically based on the symptoms. But it's not a single infection. It's usually a mix of different ones. And you get a sense from talking to the person, the questionnaires that we have, all of those things can help people to get a sense of what's going on and how to tailor treatment for each individual.